Deuteronomy 30, let's call this one High School and subtitle it Loyalty because it's embarrassing story time. See, because when I was in high school, I had this friend who was a really good friend. We never dated. This young lady that was, however, really kind to a brother who was typically socially awkward. And that was hard to work out because I was an athlete who was still socially awkward, probably about as much of a misfit as I am today. But either way, there are always those people that God will bring your way who will be relatively loyal to you no matter how little you deserve it. Fast forward, I wasn't a big fan of reunions, but when I went, I finally went back at a time when I was a little bit more socially acceptable because I finished school and had a little bit more in the way of social credibility. And so at that high school reunion, I'm starting to get attention from folks I ordinarily would not have. And then I see this friend and pretend like I don't know her. Why? Because in the circle I was sitting with in that high school reunion, she wouldn't have necessarily been a fit. And how fake is that? And here's the thing, I could see on her face as I was pretending not to see the fact that she was disappointed because she did not seem to expect me to react that way. Understand why I'm introducing this chapter that way, because God in many ways is saying the same thing to Israel after he has gotten them this far. He's saying, I know you're going to turn your back on me, but when you do and you return, I'm still going to be willing to have compassion on you. Not only that, if you return with all your heart, he's not only going to have compassion, he's going to be willing to bless them abundantly. And not only is he going to be willing to have compassion and bless them abundantly, he is going to delight in doing that. And here's the thing, with that friend, she can never assume anybody's forgiveness, but she had the kind of heart that in many ways reminded me of this passage, which is why I thought to tell that very embarrassing story in the first place. It's because she reminded me of what I was seeing in God, who was talking about his willingness to make the peace in the relationship. But understand this, when you have friends who are willing to take you back, you cannot exploit their kindness. And that's what God is saying in this chapter in many ways, when he's saying you can't keep being disloyal to someone who is going to be loyal to you. I went back to a later reunion just to apologize to that friend, but I could not find her there. And in later years, as much as I would have made it a priority to go back, I just couldn't at that time. And so understand, by the time he gets to the end of this chapter, he is going to be basically making the same point. You do not know how long that opportunity is going to be on the table to return to God with the same kind of heart that he is willing to offer to you. So here's the thing, as much as we might value loyalty in friends, it can be hard to maintain loyalty in difficult circumstances. And so God is simply tougher than we are in many ways. He is like good friends that we don't have the ability to be yet, but he understands that. So he's saying if you're willing to be loyal, even if you know you can't be loyal in all the circumstances he can, he is willing to help you. And that's in many ways what he is saying in verse 6 when it says, and the Lord will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring, so that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may live. So he's telling you, you don't have to come back to him perfected in loyalty. You simply have to come back to him genuine in loyalty and agree to let him perfect you. It's one of the reasons why confession is so important. We need to confess the fact that we aren't quite as loyal to either God or the people around us as we need to be. And if we're genuine in doing that, much like he's promised the people of Israel, he will help perfect us or get us to the places where we're acknowledging we need to be, even though we know we still have some situations where we would flake and be disloyal. And we're not talking about blind loyalty, because that can leave you vulnerable to manipulation. But biblical loyalty means being loyal to the things that God is about. Micah said it this way. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. See, my friend was showing me kindness, and oddly enough, it can be difficult to be loyal even to kind people. But insofar as God has shown each and every one of us loyalty in situations where other people would abandon us, he's simply saying, allow him to transform us into the kind of people who will be tough enough to not only be loyal to him in situations where it's difficult, but to, as we said before, be that same kind of blessing to other people. But that is one of the reasons why we frequently pray God's best to you as you go forward in him. This time asking him to transform us not only into the kind of friend we would want, but the kind of friend, if we're honest, we genuinely know that we need to be.